Robert Craig, just an old man reading from his Bible. I'm the old man. This is the Bible I use, the Holy Bible, and it's King James Version. Now we've been looking at certain key people along this timeline of the bloodline going down to the Redeemer. I want to look at another one today that's sort of connected. We saw recently that a Gentile woman who actually was a harlot in Jericho, and because of the help she gave Israel, she was promised that her and her family would be spared. And she married Salmon, who was one of the leaders of the people that came into the land, of that younger generation that was able to come through the 40 years. And that means that he was somewhere less than 60 years old, but he begat Boaz through this woman that he married that left the red cord hanging out the window there in Jericho. And they come into the picture here. Boaz is going to be, I think he's an ancestor of King David or something. Okay, so we're going to come to that. Let's look at the book of Ruth. And we'll see how events worked to lead these people into another land and to bring a woman of Moab into the family. Ruth chapter 1 verse 1, now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab. Now that's on the other side of the Dead Sea, where Lot and his family fled from the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and they actually brought about the nation of Moab. So she was of that people. And he and his wife and his two sons, and the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi. Good Hebrew name that means pleasant, I believe. And the name of his two sons were, well, I always said this was Mahlon and Chilion, but it's actually pronounced Mahlon and Kilion, they tell me. It's going to be hard for me to get a hold on that, being a southerner. They were Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah, and they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left, and her two sons. So all the males in that little family died. It says, and she was left with her two sons. But then the two sons took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Kilion died also, both of them, and the woman was left of her two sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her two daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her two daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you, in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have an husband. If I should say, I have hope, if I should have an husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would ye tarry for them till they were grown? Would ye stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes, that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. And they lifted up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, in other words, kissed her goodbye. But Ruth clave unto her. And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back into her people and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee, for whither thou goest, I will go. And where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest will I die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part me and thee. When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her. In other words, she quit trying to argue her out of it. And so one daughter-in-law turns back, and one makes a choice to change, to abandon the gods of her country, and to go to the God of Israel. So they two went till they came to Bethlehem, and it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, all the city was moved about them, and said, Is this Naomi? And she said unto them, Call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I think we've covered that before, with the waters of Mara that were bitter. I went out full, and the Lord brought me home again empty. Why then called ye me Naomi, seeing the Lord hath testified against me, and the Almighty hath afflicted me? Here we see in chapter 2, verse 2, Ruth the Moabitess. That's what she was called. She was a foreigner among them at that point. And she said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and her hap, H-A-P, her hap was to light on the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. He was a cousin or a nephew or something, some connection there, a near kinsman. So I think most of us are familiar with the story of Ruth. She gleans after his reapers. And it was a custom in those days that the poor could go in behind the reapers. And gleaning means, well, what is the best description for gleaning? My family had a farm, and we grew cotton. And when the first picking came out, we reaped that cotton with a vengeance. It was easy work. It was white, fluffy, and white unto harvest. And we couldn't just let it go. And so we had a second picking. And that's what we called it, second picking. And we would go through and get a pretty fair haul the second time through. And then when all that was gone, the time for picking was done with. And we figured we could get some second-rate lint if we went through after all the old left-behind stuff, the the late bloomers. And we didn't bother with picking because it was hard and brittle by that time. We called it pulling. So we would pull that last bale and get one bale out of the whole 13 acres that we had planted. Instead of the first picking was like a bale to the acre in most cases, but in this case, this was our gleaning on the cotton farm. We did the pulling, and it was ginned, and we got an even smaller bale of second-rate cotton fiber, but at least it was something that put food on the table. And that's what she's doing here. She's following along, and she tells her mother-in-law that she is working with Boaz and his reapers, and her mother-in-law sends her down to the threshing floor, and basically she proposes to Boaz, but he tells her, "Blessed art thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, neither poor nor rich. Now, my daughter, fear not, I will do to thee all that thou requirest, for all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thy near kinsman, howbeit there is a kinsman nearer than I." In other words, to redeem her, she had to be released from a higher claim, a prior claim. There is a kinsman nearer than I. It was his right to redeem the land of Elimelech. "Tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning, that if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well." In other words, as we would say today, well and good. "Let him do the kinsman's part. But if he will not do the part of a kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of a kinsman to thee, as the Lord liveth. Lie down till morning." So, the upshot, the other guy didn't want to, he wanted the land, but he didn't want to mar his inheritance by marrying a widow to raise up seed to the dead. He didn't want to go through that. But this is what Boaz does. And Ruth, she bears Obed, the grandfather of David and the father of Jesse. And Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom and became nurse unto it. And the women, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, "There's a son born unto Naomi." In other words, it was Ruth's son, but it was like Naomi having a replacement, so to speak. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. And these are the generations of Pharez. Pharez begat Hezron. Hezron begat Ram. Ram begat Amminadab. And Amminadab begat Nahshon. And Nahshon begat Salmon. And Salmon begat Boaz. And Boaz begat Obed. And Obed begat Jesse. And Jesse begat David. Well, and here we have another Gentile woman coming into the bloodline. That's an interesting thing, but we're going to continue on down that line and maybe hit a couple of highlights, but we're going to look at what people expected of the Redeemer. Might even recap what Moses said about him. Moses had a little something to say about him too. And then we'll look at the actual coming of the Redeemer. For now, though, may the Lord bless this reading of His Holy Scripture. And I hope somebody out there at some point in time will see this video and get something out of it. I hope to see you next time around.